Before you fans get pissed off at me, first of all, let me apologize for the long hiatus of Mad Reptile review episodes. That's one. Two, I know I've talked about Perfect Weapon a lot, but I'm doing a review of this game once more time, and this will be my last time. It will be my best too. Let me explain why I'm doing this. I've reviewed this game so many times, and in those reviews, I never even cut into this game deep enough. This time, I'm going to do a much more closer, in-depth look at the tragedy that is Perfect Weapon. One of the most fucked up beat-em-up games that I've ever played in my entire life. Let me tell you, this game may not be the worst PS1 game ever made, but it is a candidate for one of the worst on the PS1. The fact that this game was developed by the same people who did the Crow City of Angels just makes me wonder why ass games actually paid these developers to actually do this game. Whoever paid this company, the developers, money to make this travesty of a game. Seriously. And you know what? Just from the fact that the developers of what is the company's name? Grey Matter? I don't even care what the name is. I think it's Grey Matter. Yeah, the fact that they were the same developers that did the Crow City of Angels, which was also on PS1, PC, and Sega Saturn. I think I should also do a review of the Crow City of Angels. That game too. Just to show you how terrible of a game that one is. But for the time being, we're gonna have to talk about Perfect Weapon again. There is so much more wrong with this game that it's a surprise to me how I never went in depth on this game until now. But that's what's gonna happen. I will promise you guys that you guys will see the best review of Perfect Weapon. I will sum up this game as much as I can in the best way, shape, or form. So, let's talk about it. I'm really gonna regret this. Oh god. The fact that I'm literally revisiting this game is just unbelievable. I thought I was never going to have to touch this game ever again. But because my dumbass decided not to go deep into this game like I should have, I guess I have no choice but to do a more in-depth review. So here we go, from Ass Games developed by fucking Grey Matter. Yeah, the same developers that were responsible for the Crow City of Angels! But you know what? We'll talk about that game another time. Anyway, let's just talk about Perfect Weapon. Okay, here's the strange thing though. I remember I actually went onto the controls. I was trying to learn how to, the controls, and I was trying to study them. The funny thing about it was that while I was studying it, the game just automatically just went into this demo mode and I had to suffer through that loading screen. And then I had to start the whole thing all over again where it showed that dumbass ass games and Grey Matter logo. What the hell? Oh, by the way, speaking of the loading times, I just need to say right now, the loading times is abysmal. Don't you know plenty of games that, came out on the PlayStation and you always have to wait for everything to load? Well, here, you get the worst loading time ever. I swear to God, the loading time is so long. You could literally have your pubic hair grow back by the time it's done. Now anyway, before we start the game, you actually watch this ridiculous cutscene and the animation looks stiff as all hell. It really does. I've seen cutscenes from a PlayStation 1 game that looked way better than this. I mean, seriously, the animation just looks stiff. And also, what's the meaning of this cutscene anyway? Okay, so what? Captain Blake Hunter fights some martial artist? Like, I don't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe it's showing that Blake Hunter is some kind of martial artist himself too? I don't fucking know. Either way, I honestly really don't care. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, and by the way, Blake Hunter gets knocked out by some random creature. And then we get this title sequence, which, to be fair, looks okay, but I've seen better. And now we cut to the actual gameplay, and Captain Blake Hunter says a few words.
Captain Blake Hunter, recording. Current date, unknown. Current location unknown. I'm utterly lost, utterly alone. Time and place mean nothing to me in this alien land. As for my abductors, they are nowhere to be seen. And so my only enemy at the moment is this brutal cold of this godforsaken land. I now venture out in search of shelter and answers.
Yeah, that's some pretty exciting stuff, isn't it? Alright, so now let's talk about the gameplay. Okay, first of all, what is the first thing that you notice when you look at the graphics in this game? The graphics are poor as all hell. It's almost as if Ass Games or Grey Matter, whoever the fuck it is, I don't really fucking care. They literally took a massive shit on the screen, and this was the result. Seriously, this is what it looks like. I also need to mention the fact that this game also came out on the PC, so the graphics in the PC version looks actually better than the PS1 version. Even by 1996 standards, the graphics were still terrible. There were games that came out in 1993 that looked way better than this. Their names are Ridge Racer and Virtua Fighter. So obviously you can tell that it's a beat 'em up game, but it's a very poor attempt. It's a piss poor attempt at trying to be a great beat 'em up game. You know, there were some other good beat 'em up games on the PlayStation 1, like Fighting Force, which is by Eidos Interactive. You know, just thinking about that game, I'd rather play that game than to play this, because at least Fighting Force, despite having its flaws, that game was actually more well known. I think of that game more as a classic more than this game, honestly. The controls are just so fucking awful and clunky. I literally hate it. They change between two different styles. They either had to be changed before or after the fight. I'm not even making this up. Sometimes you could actually be done fighting all the enemies in the game, but yet he's still stuck in the fighting mode and you actually have to change it back with one of the triggers. Which leads me to the controls that I'm about to explain. Okay, so L1 crouches and R1 jumps. L2 actually goes left, which actually in reality, you actually go back into the normal phase where you just walk like normal, and the right trigger pushes you into the fighting mode. You can push square, triangle, and circle to fight as well, and even the X button works, and even then, the X button is a major problem in working with the game too, because half the time, every single time I try to use the left kick with the X button, it doesn't even fucking work at all. Pushing up makes Blade Hunter go forward, and obviously you can cast that back, makes him goes backwards. Now, left and right, you already know, that's self-explanatory. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well the controls seem simple, right? Well, it's the fact that the controls feel way too delayed here. I actually mentioned many times in my previous reviews how this game feels a lot like Resident Evil because of the pre-rendered style graphics and the fact that it has a fixed camera just like Resident Evil. And even then, in Resident Evil, I don't like fixed cameras. I'm just not the kind of guy who enjoys fixed cameras in video games. However, the only reason I give Resident Evil a pass is because at least the controls responds instantly, but here it feels way too delayed. I swear to God. The controls are so delayed, so awful, that I honestly thought something was wrong with my controller. I even went as far as actually switching my controller during the gameplay. I'm not even kidding. This is kind of a fourth wall moment if you ask me, but I'm serious. I actually switched controllers just to make sure that I was holding down the X button right, just so that way I can make Captain Blake Hunter run. But no, the game is just, no, it's the game. It's the fucking game. I'm not the kind of gamer who usually blames the game for the controls and everything like that, but here I have to, and I know I'm not the only one because this game is regarded as one of the worst PS1 games ever made. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Speaking of the gameplay elements, do I also have to bring up the fact that the camera is very piss poor too? The camera is so fucking annoying. It always constantly zooms in and out of certain areas whenever it feels like it. I'm not even kidding. Like one moment, you actually have the perfect angle so that way you can hit the enemies, but nope, then all of a sudden it just zooms out or switches to a different angle whenever it feels like it. That is so annoying. I fucking hate that about this game, because all it does is just makes the combat frustrating. Speaking of the combat system is very poor too. Very piss poor. To the point where I think that the programmers never even gave it a proper a good function. Just look at this. The hit detection is so poor that it is almost non-existent. Every single time you try to attack an enemy in the game, most of the time, either you're punching or you're kicking just goes through the enemies. I'm not even kidding. You can literally see it happen. It goes right through them, almost as if they're ghosts. The hit detection is just so lousy that you can barely get any hits on your opponents. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, they'll most likely hit you, and then you'll most likely die, which again is so annoying. And I die so many fucking times because the hit detection in this game is bullshit. And when you do die, it plays a very ridiculous cutscene, which honestly doesn't make any sense.
Captain Hunter, welcome to a better world.
Now, when you move on to another stage, Captain Blake Hunter is always speaking, which I also need to say, the voice acting completely sucks too. So bad that it isn't even memorable. Hell, the character Captain Blake Hunter is not even memorable at all. I don't even know anything about this character. It's like I'm supposed to like him. Well, how am I supposed to like him if he's not even being developed? Like, seriously, that's how generic this story is. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to mention, there are only 5 levels in this game. Yeah, fucking 5 levels. And guess what? All of them are long, tedious, and annoying. That is it. Now, every single time you go through a level, what's the one thing you notice? It's the repetitive enemy types. Seriously, you'll always run into some kind of enemy that's either like a humanoid type creature or an animal-like creature. Either way, every single time you go into like a level or whatever, any of the 5 levels, you'll always get that kind of repetitive enemy type. And it's like, seriously? Gray Matter couldn't seriously come up with any more enemy types other than just the same fucking thing over and over again? It makes me wonder what the hell they were thinking when they coded this crap. I mean, seriously, what were they thinking? Now anyway, about the 5 levels. Like I said, they don't make a difference at all, because each of the levels have certain sections where the enemies also respawn endlessly, which I also need to mention that too. There's these moments where in every single level, there's a section where enemies will respawn endlessly, which makes things even more frustrating than they really are. Especially considering the fact when your health is low and you have to deal with all these enemies and the hit detection sucks and then the enemies knock you out and then the game is fucking over. And it doesn't even help the fact that in some cases they even double team on you, which again is so annoying, and especially when they pummel in on you. And you already know that when the combat system isn't even good, even as far as movesets or whatever, you know the developers have fucked up. You know they have. Let me tell you how you can actually complete a level. You can't just simply rush through a level and just complete it and move on next, because here's the bullshit part. You have to collect a lot of yellow orbs from the enemies that you defeat with a required percentage needed before you can actually complete a level. This means that I have to fight as many enemies as I can possibly can and collect the orbs from them in order to move on to the next level. That's how I'm able to progress. I am not even making this up. There's no final boss fights, nothing. Absolutely nothing. You just fight enemies, you collect yellow orbs until you can actually move on. I swear to fucking God. That is just so unfucking believable. You would think that Gray Matter would actually have better common sense than that. But no, these sons of bitches actually thought that it was actually a good idea to program the game this way. Ooh, just get some yellow orbs, and you have to get the yellow orbs for the enemies before you can move on to the next thing. Hurry. Nobody is going to have an absolute problem with that. Everything about this game is just so lousy. I don't even know what Gray Matter was even thinking when they made this. Everything about this game just completely sucks. I also had to talk about the Forest Moon. And this is actually one of those where the fuck do I go kind of levels. Don't you know? You know what I mean. Those levels where you think you know where you're going, but in reality you don't because the navigation is so confusing. Speaking of the navigation, the radar just sucks. It makes no fucking sense, honestly. I mean, yeah, you can clearly see that we're in the direction where Captain Blake Hunter is going, but then there's an area where it's just all black, and you think, okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to go into that area, but yet the moment you do, then it shows up on the radar, then it's red, and then it never shows up green until you actually visit the area. So, my question is, why the fuck would they do that? Everybody would just look at the map and just assume that you can't go there, but come to find out you actually can, but the game was just too fucking lazy to actually show it on the radar like it's supposed to. Had it actually do that, the radar would have been fine, but no, it just comes across as a piece of shit, and it sucks when it comes to navigating, and all it does is just makes things more confusing. Not kidding, I actually got lost many times on this fucking Forest Moon level just because of how shitty the map system is. I'm not even kidding. Oh, and by the way, the health system, by the way, goes down also gradually through the level, depending on how you take long enough. I guess you could say that the health system is somewhat of a timer, but I really couldn't tell. I honestly didn't give two shits about it. But if there's one thing I noticed about it is that it does grow down gradually throughout the whole level, each level that you're in. So I'm assuming it kind of works like a timer, I suppose. I'm not sure. If you do want to refill your health, you have to select this. You have to use the select button, which opens up the map screen, and press X for any health items that you already picked up, and just press simply X, and then your health just refills. Very simple. This also applies to certain items that you also grab, like for example the power-ups, where you can actually power up Blake Hunter's strength when you fight the enemies. But again, these power-ups are just so lame. They don't, and honestly, I didn't really notice so much of a difference. Honestly, I didn't notice any much of a difference, because it seems like even though I hit the enemies, I expect more damage to be done, but no, it's just the same amount of damage as your average punch or whatever. That's what I just don't like about it. It sucks. The power-ups in this game are as useless as testicles on an orangutan. Overall, the game just sucks. And no matter what you do, you'll always find yourself getting pummeled by all these fucking enemies. Everything! They always respawn, and you never get a chance to back away from these bastards! Fuck! 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 I hate this piece of shit! I really do! Everything about this game is a piece of shit! The graphics suck, the hit detection sucks, the story sucks, the music sucks, the gameplay sucks! Everything about this game is a piece of shit! Ugh! The fact that the same people who did the Crow City of Angels also did this game as well makes me really fucking sick! I hate everything about this game! I hate this game more than I hate myself! I hate it more than I hate Ricky Caleb! Oh my god! Why would anyone waste their money on this piece of crap? This game is one of the worst PS1 games I've ever played! Fuck everything about this game and stay the hell away from it!
Fuck this shit! 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 Fuck it! Fuck this shit! 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 Fuck it!
Ladies and gentlemen, I very much appreciate you guys watching the brand new episode of That's a My Reptile. Now, obviously, I have to put this at the very end of the video because, well, it's kind of important. But I'm really glad you guys actually enjoyed the episode for what it was. I can promise you it's the last time where, I'm gonna have Reptile review Perfect Weapon. Why I'm making this part 4 is to give you guys an update on the Reptile vs. Croger movie, which is that the movie is actually now just about to hit its post-production phase, because the movie is just about done and it will be released in time. So I can promise you that this film is actually close to hitting the post-production phase, because we are actually just about done with this movie. It's honestly been a really thrilling experience actually doing this movie, and I honestly cannot wait for you guys to see it. But I very much, appreciate you guys watching this episode of That's a Man of Man Reptile. Just be sure to stay up to date with Shizzle Network and the Nutravon channel and everything. And keep up to date with the film, because you never know what could occur.